Welcome to the Photography Show 2024. And I'm going to start right now. So as you can see, the photo show is busier than ever, and it's finally back in March instead of September. The last few years it's been in September just due to COVID. 2023, there wasn't actually a photo show, which was a bit disappointing. 2022, which was the last photo show, we actually lost a day due to the Queen's funeral. And then in 2021, we had a ton of restrictions. So let's see what the brands have to offer at the photo show in 2024. Okay, so first up, let's have a look at the Canon stand, because there are a lot of lenses that I really want to try out. So the first lens I really wanted to look at is this. This is the RF 24-105mm f2.8. It's one of those unique lenses that Canon offer, and pretty much no other brand does it. Other brands do obviously f4 versions, but this is an f2.8. What also makes it special, it's Canon's first Z or Z series lens, which means it's more orientated for video. So yeah, it's a great photo lens and it gives you a great versatile nature, but because it's more orientated toward video, cinema makers like myself that use Canon C70 and the R5C, this will fit really well with your kit. The only downside to it really is it is on the more expensive side of things, coming in at around £3,500. So hopefully one day I'll be able to get a chance to do a full review, but yeah, this is a lens I'd love to have in my camera bag. So this is 24mm and this is 105mm. So you can really see how versatile this lens is, both for photography and video. Now, I review a lot of lenses on my channel, but one I can never seem to get hold of is this. This is the Canon RF 1200mm. Now, this is a very specific lens. It's also very, very expensive, which is probably I'll never be able to get hold of it. But it gives you an extreme crop, more than any other lens I've ever tested, even with a 2x adapter. Recently, I've reviewed the 200-400mm, and that gave you an insane crop with the 1.4x teleconverter. But this lens here is even further. So if no other lens can give you the right reach, this lens might be worth a spot in your camera bag. Just remember, you might have to sell your house to buy this lens, because the last time I checked, it was around £22,000. This here is the widest Canon RF lens that they currently do, the Canon RF 10-20mm f4. This lens here is actually a hybrid lens, great for photography and video because it's got image stabilization, which is something I was really surprised with. Plus, the small and lightweight design is great for travel photography, but is it too wide for you? Here is 20mm and here is 10mm. So we've just popped over to the Sony stand to see Sony's fairly new camera, the A9 Mark III. Now, this camera is one of very few with a global shutter. Now, what does a global shutter mean? Well, every sensor has a certain readout speed, and usually it reads from top to bottom. Some sensors are stacked, like for example, the Canon R3, which reads it really, really fast. But it still has a small latency, which can cause artifacts to appear, like for example, rolling shutter in video, and also these weird, as you can see by these pictures, this was shot actually on the A7R5, which has a terrible rolling shutter, where the A9 III is a global shutter. So it basically reads it all simultaneously, which means for sports photography, this is probably one of the best cameras you can buy. Also for video, it's also going to be really, really good as well. The downside to it is sometimes it has a reduction in dynamic range, as well as it's got a slightly higher base ISO than other cameras. But for most sport photographers, that isn't going to matter because the benefits of a global shutter will be far better than a rolling shutter. Now the A9 also has a kind of party trick where it can shoot up to 120 frames a second in RAW. Sure, the buffer isn't the best, but you can still take 120 frames a second in RAW, uncompressed RAW as well. So you can really see how orientated this camera is to sports photography. Because obviously for weddings, I'm never going to need 120 frames a second, but if you're a sports photographer and want to get that exact moment captured for all time, then to be honest with you, the A9 III is probably the best camera out right now. Now, if you're someone like me and got into photography because you really enjoyed doing it and then just ended up doing it as a career, carrying an R5 around with you all day might be great, but your friends might not necessarily enjoy it all the time. At least I know mine don't. So that's where you want something that's a little bit more enjoyable, take you back to the roots of your original hobby, which is why getting something like this might actually be really helpful. This is the Instax Mini 99. Now, I own the Instax Square, but this is basically a more analog version of a traditional film camera. And what I really like about it is it takes the pressure of taking nice photos and you're focusing more on the enjoyment. Sure, my R5 anyway is going to take obviously better photos because it's a digital camera, but having something like this will bring you back to your core hobby, why you enjoy taking photos in the first place. And I love taking this around when I'm going around with my friend London, when I visit Beth, or when I visit my brother up in Liverpool. I don't want to take my expensive camera around with me because the point of me taking photos is to enjoy it because I'm not working. I don't need to be paid to take nice photos. So having something like this might actually bring back the enjoyment. If you're finding you're struggling to enjoy taking photos on your nice camera, maybe getting something like this, a fairly inexpensive little Instax camera, might bring back the enjoyment of taking photos. And as a photographer, that is what's most important. Now, although it's lovely to have a look at all the brand new cameras and lenses and accessories that the brands have got to offer, what's even more important are the talks. Being inspired as a photographer, especially for someone like myself, is a really important thing. So it doesn't matter if you're coming Saturday, Sunday, Monday or Tuesday to the photo show, make sure you go and have a look and see who's talking, because that is really important. Getting inspired by another photographer is so much more important than buying a new camera or lens. Now, one of Sigma's latest lenses, which to be honest with you, I'm really excited about and can't wait if it ever comes in RF, is this. You'll be surprised, but this is a 500mm, the same as this here. Now, obviously, they do have a slightly different aperture. This is f4 and this is f5.6, but genuinely look at the difference in size. Now, if you guys follow me on my channel, you'll know that I've actually recently reviewed the 500mm f4 by Canon, and that was just really annoying to carry around. It was incredibly heavy, and we took photos of some red squirrels and predominantly had it on a tripod. But no way would you need this on a tripod. It's got the same focal length, it's just got a slightly different aperture. So, and basically the only difference between this is one stop. So is that stop worth it? In my opinion, for the size and weight, if you're a travel photographer or walking long distances for wildlife, this is probably one of the best lenses you can buy, because carrying this around all day, you're gonna need very strong arms or simply go to the gym a lot. Now, when we talk about photography news, we're usually talking about the latest camera or latest lens. But the brand behind us, Nikon, surprised us by actually buying Red, the cinema camera company. Now, Red is famous for creating beautifully made cinema cameras, like, for example, the Red Raptor, that has amazing colors. But Nikon aren't necessarily famous for in the cinema industry. In fact, I don't think they do a single cinema camera. They predominantly do high-end photography cameras, like, for example, the Z9, which is great for video. So it'll be really interesting to see where Nikon take this. Do they introduce some of their Red technology into their Nikon cameras, or take some of the Nikon specs and place it into their Red cameras? I'm really interested to see what Nikon do with this, because the possibilities are endless. Now, Canon are known for creating kind of weird and wacky lenses. We've just looked at the 24-105 as well as the 10-20mm. But the probably most unique lens I've seen is this. This is the 5.2mm dual fisheye virtual reality lens. Now, we've got it on the R5 at the moment, which basically means you've got two 8K kind of slots that you can view it through. And then what you do is you use a VR headset to kind of view your footage. So it films in 180 degrees. Now, obviously, this is a very, very specialized lens. Not everyone is necessarily going to be using a lens like this, but if you are a VR virtual reality filmmaker or even photographer, then this lens might be interesting to have a look at. It's definitely on the more expensive side of things, and again, you are going to need a lot of back-end stuff to make it work, like, for example, a virtual reality headset. But you can actually upload now VR stuff to YouTube. So yeah, if you're interested in me to review this lens later on, and if you've got a VR headset, this might be a really interesting lens to own. But for the meantime, I might just have a little bit of a loan instead, because it is a very, very specialised lens. But you've got someone standing in front of me in a beautiful forest, and you can view all the way around. You've got the edges of the pictures here, but you've got visual depth. You can actually see foreground and background, and it actually looks like you can almost touch it, but you obviously you can't. So if you're interested in VR and wanting to know the experience of VR, then you want to come down to the photography show and actually visually try it out, because it is genuinely amazing. You can actually see it's like you're actually there. It's genuinely like you're there. You're getting full depth. Like the kid seems really close, and then the background, you look over to the background, it looks really far away. Now, although DJI aren't here this year, which is a little bit of a shame, we've come to London Camera Exchange to have a look at the new DJI 2, something that I'm actually thinking I might actually end up buying today. Now, I actually use, or what we're using at the moment, the Mark 1 DJIs, and these ones are pretty much better in every single way, but just by a little bit. So the case is a lot nicer, it's lockable, which is nice, and overall, every little bit that was wrong with the original DJIs has pretty much been improved on the Mark 2s. So you've got 32-bit float, which means it gives you a little bit more range, so you're less likely to peak in really very loud or very quiet environments, as well as the bag has been improved. So I personally would have a look. If you already own the Mark 1s, it might not necessarily be worth upgrading to the Mark 2s, because it's a microphone at the end of the day. But if you're fresh into audio and you haven't done any audio yet, these might be, in my opinion, probably one of the best wireless microphones you can buy, because everything has been, I love the Mark 1s, obviously I still own them, and these ones are just a little bit better in every single way. Like, for example, the previous time, the little kind of dead cat that would fit on the top would fall off all the time, and it was just a little bit annoying. So now, it plugs into the 3.5mm, so it's less likely to fall off. So it's just little things like that that really help on a filmmaking day. Now, a product I love for capturing behind the scenes is this. This is the Insta360 X3. And what it is a 360-degree action camera. This one's waterproof, which is really good, but the reason I predominantly use it is for basically BTS, or behind the scenes. Because this is a 360-degree camera, it's filming everything at once. So you film everything, then when you get home and edit the video, you can be selective over what you're focusing on. So for example, the Insta360 I'm filming on now is filming my brother. Then I can flip it around, and it's filming the screen, which is filming me. So you can see, you can be really selective over what you're filming, which is really nice. And it takes the worry out of, did I get that in shot with my action camera, or GoPro, for example, which has got a field of view it films in. Because it's 360, it films everything. So you're never going to miss that really important moment. And this is why I love it as a wedding filmmaker. If you want to know more, I'll place this video here. It might not be out yet on YouTube, but this is a video all about my favorite wedding accessories, and this is one of them. And there we are. That was the Photography Show 2024. It has genuinely been a blast, looking at all the latest cameras and lenses, as well as some of the inspirational talks that have been going on a few of the stands. So if you do come along to the Photography Show, obviously it's lovely to have a look at the latest cameras and lenses, but don't forget the inspirational talks. I have learnt so much today just by occasionally listening while walking around some of the stands. It has been so much fun, and I can't wait until the Photography Show 2025. So if you are interested, make sure to come along to that as well. I've been James for Photo Fever, and I'll catch you guys next time.